Good morning. My name is Joe Vandal, and I am the last Rosicrucian. Today is going to be kind of a ramble, but it's also um, the title is going to be "We are like we are like boiling frogs." So we'll see how it goes. But first, I want to share a little bit. Um, as you know, I kind of spread my uh, video time or my creative time through translations of German stories, through updates on Gaia's Ascension, maybe a little bit about current events, but not very much. And there's a part of me that really wants to kind of do some of my own writing. I've already, there's a trilogy, a science fiction fantasy trilogy that I wrote the first book too, and I always wanted to get back to writing the second one. And the reason that I've never pursued that is because I've never really encountered any interest in my stuff. Literally, pretty much the only thing that's really where people have been interested in paying some money for the work that I do, what I put out, creative output, is my translating. Uh, Everything else, there can be readers, but there's not really support in the sense of uh, not really not really doing well. It's not paying for itself, basically. It's not, and I have to look at some of those things. So what I've done is a lot of just put out, especially a lot of the organic Gnosticism or oak materials, which really represent the cream of the crop of a lifetime of studying human potentials, uh, spirituality, metaphysics, the occult, things like that. So a lot of solid information. And I'm kind of at a spot in my life where I'm like, okay, what's next? I revisit this spot over and over and over again at times, and I'm revisiting it again. But this time, I'm actively asking. I want to ask you people who are watching this videos, who are watching my videos, please comment so that I have some idea of where I stand. Because if there is an interest in the kind of material that I'm putting out in this video, I would be encouraged to continue. And if, as normal, there's no comment, um, I'd be very much inclined to just kind of forget about it. I'd already thought that I was going to forget about it, but there's a part of me that somehow looks at the world situation. It looks at the ascension process that's going on right now, and it's saying, and it is telling me, and my heart and stuff is saying, there's some people really need to know some things, and I might be in a position to share something that's worth knowing. But on the other hand, it's kind of like the Bible talks about casting jewels before swine or whatever. I mean, if it's not appreciated, if it's not wanted, I'm just Uh, it's unrequited. I suppose that's what it comes down to. So please consider commenting. That's what I'm really looking for here. Now, the idea of we are like boiling frogs comes from a concept that Earth's ascension process, as I understand it, as I experience it, is now actively focusing at the genetic level. It's actually hitting into physicality in a pretty big way. Before, you know, it used to be in your head, it used to be in the emotions, it used to be. Now it's changing our bodies. And there's scientific reasons for what's happening. I'm going to bring some of these up in a brief way that you can research on your own if you want to. But essentially, other than the science that I've referenced, that I've done in my own research, I would at this point, in Gaia's ascension process and in the current events of the world stage, I would like to point people to a YouTube video that's called Suspicious Observers and get up to speed on space weather, solar forcing of the environment, and galactic forcing of the environment. Because those things in that channel report current events and current scientific papers. Ben Davidson, who runs that channel, he's got a mind that is like a photographic memory or whatever, and he reads the latest science papers and has a gift for putting all that information together. Whereas most scientists, even the ones that publish these papers, they don't have a lot of time to read everybody else's papers. And because they're trying to sound their own horn, they're not really open to ideas that are different, that don't support their own pet theories. So I'm just saying that the YouTube video Suspicious Observers will keep you updated with the newest scientific papers that are coming out, that he draws upon and reports upon those, as well as monitoring space activity and sun activity. So I'm just leaving it at that. When I was writing my oak materials or whatever, I used to talk about Dewey Larson's reciprocal systems theory, because that was as far as I would go, and I'd refer people to that. Well, this is an added step that goes even further toward integrating current scientific thought. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no conflict with some of this stuff, with this stuff. But essentially, the entire universe and life upon it is turning out to be electromagnetic in nature. And at some point, at some distinction, we can even perhaps say that reality is holographic in nature, and that each one of us independently, we share a collective hologram, but within that collective hologram, we have our individual creations, depending on how creative and active we are. So we have the ability to make a difference. In fact, it's up to us to make a difference. But on the other hand, there are the things that are driving Gaia's ascension, Earth's ascension processes, pretty much fundamentally turn out to be galactic, because there are current sheets that science is starting to talk about, galactic current sheets, things like that, that are waves, and they create cycles of activity that in turn create cycles of activity within the solar systems, which create cycles of activity within the planets. I mean, you have cycles within cycles within cycles. And the main thing to talk about is, as far as I'm concerned, there's a daily cycle that we can talk about. There is a solar, a yearly cycle, monthly cycles, and there is a 2,000-year cycle, which every 2,000 years a new type of activity, a new type of chakra center is activated until it reaches the top, and then like a piano keyboard, it goes back down, and you have the like the C note, the note C, high C, low C, middle C. It creates a harmonic and it starts over again. And there's a great cycle, which is really what the galactic current sheet is pushing for us, which is approximately like 24,000 years. And these cycles, they're like clockwork. It's not like 1 year you miss them. It's not like we avoid it this time, but next time. There's certain cycles, these cycles, each time they come up individually in their own way. They have their own footprint, if you will, or fingerprint or whatever, but they happen. And we're already in the beginning stages of the next great cycle. And we're over the top. And part of us is still stuck behind, and that part is cooking. It's literally cooking because of the energies that are the increased energies that are happening, that are being propelled by the galactic and solar cycles. So if and for example, I mean, and they are inevitable. What's happening? Again, I'm going to refer people to Suspicious Observers to take an in-depth look at that. But what's happening is we're in the downswing of an occurring magnetic excursion, which is essentially a pole shift. The pole shift, magnetic north, has been moving for years. It's been moving 30 miles a year southward and increasing the speed. And they have The science has, suspiciously enough, they've not given updates on where it's at. They're kind of like, okay, we're not telling you how fast it's going now, but they're watching it. They're watching it very carefully, and every now and then you run across newspaper or news items where they have to recalibrate runways because the magnetic lines no longer line up to where they used to be. So they have to recalibrate to make it safe for planes to take off and land. So it's happening. And because of this galactic cycle, because of these solar cycles, there is drastic climate change. And it is not because of man-made things. It's because of natural cycles. The current belief of man-made climate change, while it exists at a minuscule point. And there's a lot of people that understand climate change is real. They understand it's galactic, it's through solar forcing, it's through space weather and natural earth cycles. But they're saying it's man-made so they can make some money on it. They're commercializing it while they can, because realistically, some real bad things are happening, and they're going to get worse. And I'm going to say that, for example, in the past year, what's happened? Earth's magnetic shield is weakening, and because it's weakening, it's allowing more solar radiation and cosmic radiation to penetrate deeper into Earth's climate, into Earth's atmosphere, and into the ground. And a consequence of that is that I'm going to use this term because hopefully it'll make sense, even though it might not be strictly accurate. Everything's getting filled with static electricity. The atmosphere is getting filled with static electricity. The earth is getting filled with static electricity. Every human being is getting filled with static electricity to a point where it's becoming very, very uncomfortable. And it is stirring things up, and it is causing psychotic behaviors. It's causing people to go crazy. And that is why the title of this post is why we are like frogs in boiling water. Or we're like somebody sitting in a microwave that's slowly getting cooked. What's happening with Gaia's ascension has reached a point where it is really directly affecting physicality. And while it is affecting physicality on a global political stage, it's affecting us in our physical bodies. It's causing an acceleration of effects. And for most of us, what's happening is we're getting older faster, or disease is coming on because anything that's self-destructive is being energized activated, and we got to deal with it. And if that's just happening all over the place, and if we ignore it and ignore it, then things just get more massive and more massive and more massive, like a tumor or whatever, until it takes us out. Now, excuse me, I should say that it's obvious that every single one of us who is alive and in a physical body someday is going to die. That's what happens to people who are born. Birth and death, it's a cycle. And it happens over and over and over again. However, there's a soul, there's a spirit, there's a gestalt, the energy, whatever you want to call it, that inhabits the physical body and can leave during dreams, during astral projections, things like that. In other words, our physical body is separate from who we are. And there's a lot of people out there that don't buy that. They don't believe that. And if you do not believe that you exist after the death of your physical body, you can't hold all the pieces together. So in this time of increased radiation, in this time before the pole shift happens, in this time of growing static electricity all over the place, everything's being stressed. And the maximum, the biggest priority that we have, that we can have, is to use the opportunity that's given to us to kind of get our act together so that our spirit, our soul, our personality, if you will, can hold itself together, whether it's in a physical body or whether it's not in a physical body. Just saying, that has to remain our biggest priority. And we are in the beginning of this new great cycle, which means the dominant energy, the dominant catalyst is and will be for the next 2,000 years at the root chakra level. It will be at the survival level. It will be at where, as human beings, our biological bodies are at an equal footing with viruses, one-celled living things, other species. In other words, just because we function at a mental activity doesn't mean as much as it used to. For the last 2,000 years, humanity was the only species that was able to tap into these higher spiritual or philosophical, mental abstract energies. A lot of the animals couldn't reach that high. So we could pull some fast ones on things. And we managed to get through the crisis point of not blowing the world up back in 2012 or whenever, because that was part of what was in the astral. That was part of the timeline, of Earth's timeline, and we avoided that. And the only way we avoided it was by being higher functioning. But we left that point of higher functioning. Now we're at that point of lower functioning, and our own self-destructive natures are kicking in as the shadow explodes. The shadow's exploding. Okay, I'm just gonna come out and say this. Go ahead. Does an animal have a shadow aspect? No, not. It doesn't have an. It's animal has really got itself together for whatever it is. There's not a shadow aspect. There's not a repressed aspect. I mean, some of our pets, dogs and cats, they may be made to feel guilty or ashamed or something like that. And that's at the higher, because they're able to achieve to a certain extent. But ordinarily, animals are not bothered by those kind of things. They, their conscience, if you could say they had a conscience, is pure. They are who they are and they do what they do. It's humans that have that struggle. And as this new age unfolds, we're being cooked with all this static electricity, and it is softening our reality. It's every as the shadow erupts, this destructive part of us cooks and it unravels and it lets out the energy because the static electricity is forcing new pathways that were blocked. Because ultimately, and this is a metaphysical reality, but it's a medical reality as far as I'm concerned, a spiritual reality as far as I'm concerned. Blockage is negative. Blockage hurts. It's the open flow of energy that keeps a person young, that keeps a person healthy. The open flow, open, unrestrained acceptance and dealing with things that really is what's important. And it's the blocked, the pent up, the twisted, the stuffed where you stuff it down, that kind of stuff that causes the problems. And the static electricity that is currently growing to unbearable unbearable consequences in our world is really causing us stresses. It's causing uh, the crazies to happen. So just to kind of recap, I'm saying we're at a point where we really need to, we're being cooked like frogs. You can't really feel it, but it's causing any seed, any kernel of illness within our body to be triggered so that our immune system can deal with it and overcome it, or it's going to cause medical problems for us. But all of those things that happen are happening to create, to build our soul, to build our uh, astral bodies so that they can be stronger upon the death of our physical body. My own experience, what I experience, I sense my own body increasingly as a strong and fulfilled etheric and astral body that's kind of bridges all of the astral planes and that is gradually leaving the physical. As my body's cooking and whatever, it's cleansing itself and it's breaking molecule by molecule, DNA strand by DNA strand. It's breaking its connection with physical reality to the point where, this is just what I think. I remember like Star Trek where they say, beam me up, Scotty. Or one day I'll just beam up. Wherever it is, a beam up. I'm just going to dissolve and become energy. That's what I'm hoping as a goal. Now, I could be wrong because the alternative is actually what's going to be happening to most people, which is the ascension process is going to mean you drop the physical body. You die. Your physical body dies and you go on as an energetic body. That's the ascension that most people are going to be dealing with. That's why you can't be afraid of dying. You can't be materialistic. But you want to be strengthening your awareness and your consciousness, your core, so that it can hold together at the death of the physical body. After the pole shift, after all of these things, I suspect, and I'm thinking that I'm getting the idea that, okay, things like matter transmission, things like beam me up, Scotty, they're going to be possible because what we have become is so pure and so refined and so synchronistic or harmonic that it will allow transmission. It will allow itself to be at this point, disappear, show up over here. But right now, each one of us has inside of us these blockages, these impurities, these genetic issues, health issues, you could say karmic issues, these wounds, these things that are being blocked. And they're preventing that purity from happening. But the cooking process that's going on and that's increasing is making that more and more, it's accelerating. Now, what I'm sharing in this video is what I believe that this is what's happening right now. We're cooking, like we're in a microwave and we are cooking. Our physical body is cooking, but that physical body is not necessarily who we are. And as it cooks, it's developing and it's empowering and it's growing our non-physical bodies as it should. But the process is accelerating, and most people are going to drop the physical bodies one way or another, whether it's through old age, whether it's through cancer, or through illness, or through accident, or through war. The thing is, the longer you can hold out, the better the more developed your soul body's going to be. So we're all trying to hold out to the longest we can. They do say there is a promise that some people might be able to make this transition to that beam me up, Scotty, without dropping their physical body. I'm giving it a chance. I'm going to try it. I've been on this path all my life, and I'm pretty good at it. And I can share some of the things that I know. Or not. This is why I'm asking for comments. I'm like, do you want me to share more about what's going on today and how to maximize the time that we have left? And if there's no comments, I'm going to say there's no interest, because I've been offering this information, the best information that I have. I've been offering it for damn near 30 years now, with very, very few people offering a comment. So it's kind of like, okay, I know a little bit more now, because and I'm kind of up to speed on what I believe is happening. I'm willing to share that, but I need to know. And what I'm doing is I am going to just kind of wait till the summer solstice, which is in June, which is next month, before I really decide on what path I'm really being called upon. And it's three paths. One is to continue my translating. I've already translated 25 books. So that's a substantial thing. I don't need to keep translating these things. I could stop at any time, really. A lot of those magazines or whatever. Or I could continue doing that if people were interested in that. I'm thinking that as the world crisis deepens, there's going to be less interest in things like that and more interest in pure survival, which I'm offering to write about instead, but I could be wrong. The other thing is, there's a part of me that's really like, hey, I do want to finish that trilogy, because there is some important information that can come out in those that can come out in a story form, might be a little more accessible to people. So just think about it. I'm putting it out there. I try to give you an idea. We're like frogs in a boiling water. We're cooking. And what do you how do you want to move forward? How would you like to see what I do? That's all I'm asking, is just comments. No, and no comments is a vote, as well as a comment is a vote. So I'm just curious. That's all I have to say, and I think I've said it over and over and over again. And a lot of the things I have to share, I've said before, but I can say them in maybe a way that makes more sense now, a way that's a little more smoother and understandable, if people were interested. Anyway, till next time.